Do you think you suck at motivation? Well, if you do, make sure you watch this, especially if you think you suck at motivation around exercise, because I'm going to share one of the most important things you need to know about motivation so you can do the thing you need to do in the areas that are important to you in your life. So a few years ago, my first book, which is called The Fitness Attitude by Bevan Eyles, came out. In that book, there was a chapter that seemed to hit a note with a lot of people. And it was a story that I learned about motivation when I first started teaching fitness. Now, one thing I do as a fitness every day of my life is I motivate people. Like every day of my life, I'm coaching people, I'm teaching fitness classes, I'm mentoring people. And part of my job is to take you to a place where maybe you can't get to by yourself. And I kind of pride myself in my career that motivation is one of the things that I am really good at. Like it's one of, when you look at a fitness instructor, most fitness instructors have kind of 2 or 3 shining areas of skill. And motivation is definitely one of my areas where I just seem to have this ability to bring out the best in people in many different situations. And I remember when I first started teaching fitness, and when I first started teaching fitness, one thing I had was a lot of energy. And so I've never really lacked energy. Everyone was always like, you're the Energizer Bunny guy, you are. And I remember I taught one of my first ever classes, and I'm teaching my class, and Maureen Baker. Now, Maureen Baker is one of the most important people in my career, as in getting me opportunities at the next level. Early on in my career, she knew the right people, she saw my potential, she opened the door and introduced me to these higher level people, which, really kind of changed my life in many ways. And I remember Maureen came along to one of my classes, and I was this young, fit, like extremely fit, heaps of energy, absolutely kind of Energizer Bunny, you could get that word right, the Energizer Bunny guy going absolutely crazy in my class. And she came along to my class, and after my class, she came up to me, she said, Bevan, you've got lots going for you, but there's one thing you need to learn. And she said, Bevan, you need to learn when to motivate people. And I thought, what do you mean? And she said, well, Bevan, people don't need motivation in a warm-up. And when you watch the way you teach a class, you're motivating people like crazy in the warm-up of the workout. These people don't need motivation at this moment. You need to think about when you're going to motivate in the most powerful ways possible. Now, if I contrast this to the way I teach nowadays, if I'm thinking of like a spin class or an RPM or a sprint or one of the Les Mills cycle classes, when I'm teaching this class, what I'll often do is I'll lay a challenge in front of people. So I'll set up the terrain. I'll kind of say, here's what we're going to be doing in this next moment of time. And I may even say, here's the thing that I want you to focus on. And then when they're going through it, I'm kind of reinforcing technique. I'm telling them how to get more out of their movement. I might be giving them some benefits of actually doing what they're doing right now. But at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm watching. And I'm watching, waiting for the moment when I feel they need motivation. Because this is the most important thing we need to get around motivation, is that when we think about motivation, we don't need motivation all the time. We just need to understand when we need motivation. And as a fitness professional, what I do nowadays is once I've found that moment of motivation, then I inject all these motivational tools that I've used over time or that I've learned over time to help people go to that place where maybe they're shying away from at that moment and can take them to a higher level. That could be things like role modeling. It could be things like using challenging questions. It can be things like just yelling at people. Like sometimes, let's be honest, in certain environments that works. There's lots of I've got this back belt of motivational tools that I'll use when I'm teaching fitness. And that's what we're looking to do. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Well, I love this concept of moment of motivation. Because in the area of life where you're trying to improve, motivation's a really important thing. And a lot of people, when I talk to people who aren't exercising, they say they want to get exercise in their life, there's often a few things they come back to me with. And one of them is, I lack motivation. Now, you don't lack motivation all the time, you just probably lack motivation sometimes. And there's a couple ways we can look at this. First of all, is what I want you to think about is what's an area of your life where you're trying to bring a behavior in that's of the next level for you, and maybe you feel you lack a bit of motivation. So the first thing is identify the area where this is the case for you. Secondly, what we want to do is we want to identify when's the moment where I'm going to need motivation. So if we use exercise as the example, for some people that moment of motivation is really early on in their exercise experience. So for example, for some people, the moment of motivation is packing the bags the night before if they're going to be doing exercise in the morning. But the motivation comes in actually setting up to do the exercise. For other people, it might be that they have an exercise routine, but they always take the easy option when the workout becomes challenging. So their moment of motivation is the ability to push harder in that moment. So the first thing you want to identify is, what's my area? The second thing you want to identify is, what's the moment when I need motivation in this journey of this experience? And then the third thing we want to think about is, what tools and strategies that you're going to put in place at that moment. Actually, I'm going to share a real interesting example that just popped up in my head right now. So after I do this video today, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to do a sprint workout and a strength development workout. It's basically kind of an hour and a half of workout, all top end stuff. So max kind of hits kind of cycle workout, and then I'm going to strength workout afterwards. Now, last week when I did the workout, I had a really extremely heavy week of training within me. So I allowed myself to go a little bit easier in that session because I just think my body needed it last week. But this morning when I got out of bed, I thought to myself, just subconsciously, I thought maybe I'll just take it easy again today. Now this week, I haven't had the same kind of training week. This session is meant to be a top-end training session. So I already see my moment of motivation I need in today's workout. And it's when I'm doing that sprint workout, when the instructors challenge me to go to the next level, I've got to make choices to go to the higher level in the moment. That's my moment of motivation. Now, with that in mind, what strategies am I going to use? Well, I love the third person perspective strategy. So I'm going to use the third person, the commentator's voice. Bevan is doing this when he's doing this. It's me talking about myself in the workout. I'm going to preload what I'm going to do in that moment as well. I'm going to look to see myself pushing really hard, so visualizing that moment as well. So as you can see, I've identified the moment I'm going to face in the next kind of 40 minutes of my life. I've thought about the motivational tools I'm going to use at that moment, and then in the moment, I want to apply those tools. Now, the chances of me being successful in my workout today is massively higher because I've spent the time doing this. And that's what I want you to think about in the areas where you feel you lack motivation. So there's kind of 4 steps to the process. First of all, what's the area where you lack motivation? Secondly, what's the moment of motivation that you need to get better at and you need to figure out your strategies for? Thirdly, what are the strategies that you're going to put in place in that moment? And you can have one strategy, you can have more than one strategy. You're basically trying to put all the strategies that are going to help you be successful in that moment. And then fourthly, apply the strategies in the moment. Now, sometimes you'll nail it, sometimes you won't. But ideally what you're trying to learn is, how do I consistently use these tools in that moment so the higher level becomes my new experience? Like, do you think that if you went through that process in the area where maybe you're not creating the change you wanted, do you think you'd get to a higher level version of yourself? And the answer is kind of obviously yes, isn't it? So your challenge this week is to practice my 4 steps. What is it? Identify an area, identify the moment, develop your strategies, practice your strategies, and step number 5 is learn and reflect after the fact. If you enjoy my videos and you're not exercising, or you know somebody in your life who really struggles with exercise, I've got to recommend my new book, I Will Make You Passionate About Exercise. The purpose of this book is to take those who struggle with exercise from where they are to cementing the foundation that creates a lifetime love of exercise. It has all the steps, it has a plan, it has a journey that you go through that safely and wisely guides you to bringing exercise in your life in the most successful way possible. To get the book, go to www.passionaboutexercise.com. It will be the best thing you can do for your health and fitness. Get the book right now and you'll be seeing massive change in your health and fitness in a very short period of time.